Okay, so we're here with Mahlatse and Kat, and we want to talk about belonging. So this topic is basically a time to belong. So I want to start with a little icebreaker, if you guys are up for that. And this game is called Who You Gonna Call? All right, so how this works is you're stuck in a situation. I don't want to say desert island. It's so played out because how many people get stuck in desert islands? But you're in a little bit of a pickle. Something has gone wrong, and you can make one call, and you need to make one call. Who is the one person in your life that you know will pick up? And we're gonna put that to the test.
Okay, wow.
So right now, think of that person and call them, and we will see if they actually pick up. Yeah, you don't have to tell them, don't scare them, something danger. But we can just tell them that we were testing to see, okay, if they pick up. So, who wants to go first? Who's need to go first?
I feel like the first person I would call is definitely my husband, but it feels like a cheat code.
Listen, some people pick up.
And then he embarrassed me today.
And he doesn't pick up. Oh my gosh.
You know what? Let's put it to the test. And that's his husband. Oh, you better come through.
Maybe he's in a meeting now.
I love the T's and C's.
Let's see if he's going to answer. Oh, he mustn't embarrass me. Oh, hi. Hi, baby. Oh, no, we are just playing a game on the podcast to see if your people answer their phones. So you did answer, so you passed the test.
Well done. Yay.
Okay, shut. Okay.
All right.
Cheat code.
That is a reliable person to call. Well done. Kat, do you have your person?
Yeah, my mom.
Your mom? Okay, let's go. Let's see if mom's gonna pick up.
She better.
Girl, if I call my mom, she is not picking up. I'm
She
telling you.
better.
Hang up.
She better. Let me see. She better not be in the kitchen. Yo. Mama. Yeah, Pilunjan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm actually on the podcast setup. I was calling you to see if you're gonna pick up. They want to see who's the one person that's gonna pick up when I'm in trouble. And I said you, and you picked up.
Yay, mama.
There's no way.
Oh, thank you, mommy.
I was still picking.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, sure.
Yay,
Love
mama.
you too.
Okay, bye.
Sure.
Okay,
I love
shoot.
that. Yes, I'm glad that both you picked up. No one's gonna be embarrassed today. I'm glad I'm not doing that. I know my person did not pick up the first call. All right. Okay. So, firstly, what did it feel like making the call and choosing who you're going to call?
I mean, like I said, mine feels like a cheat code.
Okay.
Firstly, I know this person. Like, he will answer his phone. Come rain, come sunshine. Like, he's just one of those people, super, super reliable. And he'll just never not answer the phone.
Oh.
I can't say the same for myself.
Same.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't say I'm notorious for not answering my phone. But yeah, I think also you can see how I'm smiling. It makes me feel good that I know that this guy's going to answer his phone.
Amazing.
So it feels good to know that there's someone. If I'm in trouble, I know he's gonna pick up. So it feels very good to have that in my
Oh,
corner.
that's good.
Love that.
Yeah.
Kat, how about you? How did you
My mom, I knew she was gonna pick up. She always does. Love that about her. She's my go-to person, man. Especially with my faith journey, she's one person that has always been, because I was like the first person to come into the faith in my entire family. So my mom
Wow.
is that person. you know,
Oh,
for
wow.
me, I
That's
can,
beautiful.
because she also just also, you know, accepted the Lord. So it makes me really happy. Our relationship is so much better now that I'm older. Than it was when I was growing up. I guess she was more of a parent then, like, you know, parenting me, and then now it's like, you know, I can just be honest with her, so it's cool. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
So cool. I'm really glad that y'all people came through for you. That's incredible. I mean, and today, I mean, this episode right now, we're going to just be talking about community. I think that's such an essential part of our calling, our purpose. You know, like in South Africa, we have the concept of Ubuntu, right? That means we are who we are because of, you know, who others are, because of the people around us. So I think that it plays a big role in our ability to have faith in ourselves, people who affirm our gifting. You were talking about your friend who said, you know what, just write anyways. Who cares? Stop questioning yourself. You know, somebody to call us to a little bit more. So we're going to speak a little bit about that. It's encouraging our audience as well to have community around you. Like no man is an island, and we find true purpose and true meaning when we can do that in the context of close relationship, whether that's at work, at home, you know, like in every aspect of your life. So I want to ask this question. What do you think makes a person reliable?
I think it's exactly like the icebreaker. One thing that makes the person reliable is knowing. It's like you don't have to question, or it's not that they are this perfect person or they are just like superior in all the ways, but it's just like being able to trust that someone who is not you, who's not God, is able to be there for you or be some sort of support to you, especially in your time of need. I think that's one of the things that makes someone reliable. And for me, I think that has been such a big thing in my life growing up. Because I was raised by a single mom, my dad would like come here and there soon after they separated. But then in those days, like he will say, okay, I'm gonna come on Saturday, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And then he would just not come. Like, and now me and my little sister are just chilling there waiting for this guy to come through, and he just doesn't pitch. And I remember, like, I was just like, when I get married, I need a person who does the things that they say they're going to do. Like, be a person, be a man of your word. Like, that was a very big thing for me because I felt like growing up, my father wasn't reliable. So it became like a very big theme in my life that I want someone who's extremely reliable because I don't want to be left sitting at the gate waiting for someone. And that shows up even emotionally. It's not just them physically being there, it's just like a person who I know that even after a long and hectic and stressful day, week at work, I know that I can rely on him to listen. Like, I know that I can rely on you to kind of, you know, give me like the push that I needed to just get me through just another day, you know, at work or whatever the case might be. So I think it's just, it's the thing that makes a person reliable is the trust that I have in you that you'll be there for me. And that's what I think makes a person reliable.
So good, so good.
Showing up when you say
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I like that.
What about you? What does that look like for you? How do you determine what reliability looks like? And
Wow, I think for me, reliability, like you speaking on, you know, your childhood and stuff, for me, it goes back to just keeping your promises, like you said, being a man or woman of your word. You know, that's how I know. I think sometimes people, like, well, let me just say parents, they have a tendency of making promises that they know they aren't able to keep. But because they don't want to disappoint their child, for me, I would rather you just be honest and say, you know what, I don't think I'm going to come through. It's not looking great on my side. And then, okay, you know, as opposed to disappointing someone, and then now it especially if it happens often enough, it creates a sense that maybe this person isn't as reliable as I thought they would be, you know. So for me, just saying what you said you do and doing that, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're unable to, that's okay too. Just say that, you know. So,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I don't know why we put so much pressure on ourselves to show up in ways that we aren't, you know, like able to show up. I think it's sometimes a people pleasing thing that we, you know, like, and it speaks into, I think one of you were talking about your needing to learn to say no, you know. And I think rather building the muscle of being able to say no than to have to constantly say, I'm sorry, I didn't show up. You know, that you expected me to. So I think what you say is so important for a lot of us to learn. You know what? If you can't say that, no one's going to say, well, that renders you useless in my life. You know, I think people have a lot more grace for our capacity than we actually do. So
that's so true.
I want to ask, maybe I'll start with you, Kat, on this one. Do you currently in your work feel supported? Do you feel like you have people who come around you, especially venturing into something that is not your typical, like, this is a 9 to 5 thing, creative work, starting something on your own? Do you have, you mentioned one of your friends, you know, previously, but do you feel like you have a support system? And what does that look like right now?
Wow. So yeah, I do have a support system, but the writing, there isn't anyone actively involved in the writing itself apart from myself and the Lord. So it's still a two-man show right now. But I do have an amazing support structure. Like I mentioned, my mom is my biggest supporter. I've got amazing friends. I've been blessed with like really, really faithful friends, you know, and my sisters, you know, I come from a family of 6, 5 sisters, 1 brother. So my oldest sisters are like my best friends as well, you know, so they're always rooting for me. They are always the first ones to share my work, you know, with others. So yeah, I have a support structure and I love it. I'm so grateful.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is so sweet.
How would you want that to be?
Yeah, I think I would say currently, if I think about work, and where I am, because I am doing, you know, different things. As a freelance social media manager, I work with different teams, essentially, and different people. And I'm the kind of person who likes to build relationships with the people that I work with, so that, like, even if it's like a work call, we can spare 15 minutes to like talk and just like, how was your weekend? How was this? How was, you know, and just like even just have that, just time to just like, no, it's not always talking about work, and sometimes you're venting, which is quite a nice thing to be a part of a team in that way. So you get to build those professional relationships with people, and on tough days, they become the people because they know the work and are in it with you. Then they become the people you can actually, like, they lend an ear to you and, you know, hear you out and say, oh no, I'm there with you, and I hope your day goes better, you know. So that's very comforting to have. And in my personal capacity, my husband is there for me as a support. Like you, I also have gang sisters. I'm also like one of 5 girls, and so it actually it amazes me. Like, you know, we thank God for technology, ne? To have WhatsApp groups for days, because even on days where you're like, yo, I'm having the worst day, and then you go into this group and people are sharing memes, and this one is saying, yo, mama did this, and now you guys are laughing. It actually just makes your days that much brighter. And I think there's a tendency, and I've seen this in some past relationships and friendships, where there's too much like relying on one person too much to fulfill different roles in your life, that this is my one person, and work, if it's work things, it's them, if it's personal, it's them, spiritual, it's them, everything. And it's almost like exhausting this one person. So I do love having different people in my life, friends that I grew up with from church, that we've been friends since we've been, kids, and just being able to say, yo, today, yeah, it's not the day, or can we just go and have a coffee, and let's just talk. So I think there's just also, I've learned caution in trying to make one person the bearer of all my things and my only support, and just to have different pockets of people to support me in different areas in my life just makes things that much better. And I think God's put those people in my life for that very reason, to just be able to support me also here on earth.
I love it. I love it. I want to ask, just to lean into that question a little bit more. As far as your careers go, both of you, the path that you're on right now, your studies, all of that. I love the idea that we are somewhere because of the people who come around us. Like no man builds anything on it on their own. In fact, a few years ago, I remember being very overwhelmed in a situation, and I jotted down the phrase, how do you eat an elephant? Have you heard that? How do you eat it one bite at a time? I remember just saying to God, like, even with one bite at a time, and like I just felt the Holy Spirit was like with others. Like, no, why are you eating a whole elephant? Don't eat it. I think it's savagery. Peter will come for you. But just that idea for me, it just felt so light. It was just like I can tend to not ask for help, but I've become very much like, if I need prayer, I'll ask for prayer. If I need, support, I'll ask for support. So I think that's an important thing for us to remember, that people who are built and who are established and who are successful did not get there as a solo project. There's different people who have come alongside us along the way. So I would like to ask you guys, who have been those key players for you, whether it's in your studies or in your career right now. You've started your own business, that takes a lot to do. It takes a lot of courage. What did support look like during that time, and who was your support system? Who was in your corner?
I think in the beginning, it's actually interesting that in the beginning, when I started, because when I had quit my job, I actually didn't have a plan. My plan was to take a sabbatical. Like, that was the plan. I said, I don't want to do this anymore, so I need to take a break from all of this. And then when I had resigned, I served a very long notice. I served a very long notice because I also wanted to be there for my manager, who I had a really good relationship with, and just to make the transition as easy as possible for her, especially knowing that I don't have anything to do after that. But once my frame of mind was like, okay, I'm leaving this thing, it was quite interesting that God brings strangers, like, to say, oh, then I met this lady who's been doing her business for like 10 years, and she's like in social media, and she was like a more mature woman. I'm like, social media, still, like, is it possible? Like, do you not have to be hip and happening, like, to be in this space? And I just found myself being like flooded with, like, even on my social media, like, business women in business seminar or luncheon, or and I think in the beginning it felt like God was affirming this thought, because this wasn't a real thing yet, right? So it was like already God affirming the thought that actually this might be something. And so it started with strangers and people just coming into contact with people who were doing something that I might possibly do in the future. And that felt, okay, there's people doing it. Okay, I can do it. Okay. And then came having to have like a serious conversation with my person to say finances need to be restructured, you know, because like if one person's not working, you're used to a dual income household, like bills still gotta get paid. It's not like we're now saying, okay, we're selling our house, we're selling anything, and you know, we don't have responsibilities. So it was also just that being able to have that conversation to say, we need to restructure money. And that is a huge support to ask from someone to say that I don't know what this is going to be. Can you carry us financially? Like, yo, what a tough ask.
I love what you said. I was actually thinking about how with support comes some tough conversations. You know, you mentioning speaking to your husband about, hey, we need to restructure the finances. You know, and them and you just it speaks to the love, you know, that sometimes we expect and often take for granted, like with the people in our lives. The fact that you are even able to come to him with that, you know, not a lot of people can say that. Some people are like, I just have to soldier on because this is not a conversation that I can have with this particular person. This is not the kind of support that I can expect to get. You know what I mean? So I think with support also comes really tough conversations. You know, and for me with school, my dad has really been like the biggest support system for me. He is a huge proponent for education, you know, and he was always the one that's like pushing me, like, you know, school. And sometimes it's like, school's great, I love school, I want to do my own thing. Here comes in the tough conversation. Because parents, yes, they want the best for us, they love us, that's amazing, but like, the best for who though? You know, because you want to do this, I want to do that, you know, and them coming on board with what you are trying to do, and them seeing the vision the way that you are seeing it, or maybe not even seeing it, but just still supporting regardless. You know what I mean? So sometimes tough conversations have to happen, but you being able to even have them is already a good thing. You know, so yeah,
I love that. Speaking of support, we are doing this because we love for people to have a sense of purpose in their work, in kingdom work. So we would love your support in following this page and subscribing and sharing this content with anyone who might find it helpful. So please take a moment to do that now. So to wrap up this conversation, just when it comes to the word we started with, let me rather go that route. The word we started with is belonging. And it seems like both of you, in your parts, have needed to some extent pave a road for what you're doing. Do you feel a sense of belonging anywhere, professionally, maybe not even professionally, in life? Do you feel like you belong in the things that God has called you to do right now in life? What does belonging look like, and do you feel like you belong?
Yeah, I think if I hadn't taken the step last year to say, okay, we are ditching the 9 to 5, let's see, you know, what happens, I don't think I would be sitting here today. And I think for a very long time, I've struggled to connect the work that I love, which is marketing and content and social, with my faith. It's been such a hard like gap to fill. Because I mean, you come out of school, you graduate. For some of us, there's study loans that are not going to pay for themselves, and so you get an opportunity to work, you take the job, right? And I find myself in very toxic workspaces, work that I'm like, this just has absolutely no meaning for me. I'm just like, just doing it to get a paycheck and be out of here. And you can't reconcile that with who you really are. And one of the toughest places that I've been actually in work is agency, because the culture of agency is like, yo, boozing, you are, it's just like everything is just like heightened in that space, right? And it took a very long time for me to get to a point where I'm saying I want the work that I do to also reflect actually who I am as a person and what I believe in and who I believe in. So I feel like being able to have that audacity that we had spoken about in the previous episode, to just actually trust that God is going to take care of me and not me trying to make sure that I take care of me, has allowed me to be in this space where I feel like this is like where I belong, in a place where I am able to do work that is meaningful, work that actually serves other people. And it's not necessarily that everything that I do is for church or, you know, is directly linked to the word of God, but being able to choose the work that I do so that I know that it's in line with what, you know, my path is, has made me feel like I belong here.
Yeah, that's so good.
I really like that. Sure, like you mentioning some of the experiences that you have had with work. I remember we had this conversation before,
We have.
you know, and I'm now thinking about some of the stuff that I've seen as well, you know, like how I don't know like what word to use, but like it's like when you are in the faith and you try your hardest to live for the Lord, it can feel as if there's no space for you in the world, you know, because the world is so different to what we are supposed to be like in the faith, you know. And it can feel like you don't fit in anywhere, you know what I mean? And the audacity to be different in and of itself is like you need a lot of courage for that, you know, to be set apart and not to be painted as you think you are better. Oh, you know what I mean? So that's really tricky.
Especially in the workspace.
Yes, you know, like sometimes you have events and Friday night. We also had that at a job that I worked at. They were like they had like a every Friday pause situation, and the idea was you need to network with key people in order for you to, you know, like forge ahead in your career. And it's like, is there another way? You know, apart from attending the Friday bar situation, like, is there another way? And in the world, they don't offer you a solution, you know, and you coming in wanting to propose something different, it's like, we've been doing it like this. What do you mean, you know? And why do you not want to network with people? How else are you going to innovate, you know? So it can be so hard to find belonging in like workspaces. So even just doing what you want to do, completely like faith-based work, that's a privilege.
Sure.
That is such a privilege, you know, and I think it speaks to the point of support, the fact that you have people in your life that are supportive and they allow you to do what you're supposed to do so freely without any pressure of when is this thing of yours gonna, you know, like when, you know, so yeah. I think for me, belonging is, I love that I belong in the Christian faith because I feel like there's a familiarity. I don't know how to explain it. Even if it's someone that you don't know, but it's once you sit down with them and you start speaking about the Lord, it's like you've known each other forever. You know, because there's just so much to say about our Lord, and it's so beautiful. So for me, my belonging has really been, you know, about just being in the faith, the friends that I've made, the people that I've met, the people that have ministered to me, the people that the Lord has used me to minister to them in ways that I didn't even realize. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I think the Christian faith is an amazing community to belong to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that response. Yeah, because it's so true. We do end up just connecting.
Yeah.
I love that we are brothers and sisters in Christ. You know, like we just we end up being family because of, you know, who our Father is, and that does, yeah, give a great sense of belonging. I know, Mahlatse, you were speaking. You touched on it a little bit. And so did you, Kat. I think it's a privilege to work in a job where you're able to combine your faith in a more direct way to the work that you do. But that's not the reality for many people, you know. And you were saying it like after studying, you had loans to pay, so you did what was in front of you, to do, you know. And I think to encourage people. The reality isn't that I think we sometimes have the luxury to choose, but wherever we are at the moment, it's like wherever God has placed you, whatever career or provision looks like in that season, to think about who it is you're serving. You know, and you mentioned worthy as a worship unto the Lord is an important thing. But to stop and say, who does this serve? You know, and look within and be like, God delights in my hard work. God delights in my ability to provide in any way. You know, unless it's unethical. You know, it's not proper crime. It's not of the Lord. But I think as long as it's good and ethical work, I think it does have a place in the world around us, and that God can use it for His glory. And to stop and be like, and we mentioned this in another episode where it's like, God, why do you have me here in this season? I think when we avail ourselves to the work of God, it doesn't always look like I'm employed by a Christian organization or I'm writing, you know, like Christian content, but it's, Lord, how are you already at work here, and how can I join in on the work of God in this environment for us to live more purposefully? So, yeah, I think this is good stuff, belonging. And yeah, ladies, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your wisdom. And yeah, like I said, we really bless the work that you do, and we know that many people will be helped. So if you have not subscribed yet, we ask that you do that, so that you do keep getting firsthand the content that we put out. So share this with somebody else as well, and like this video if you found it helpful.